Hi, my name is DiMicco, and I'm a mental performance mastery coach. I'm so excited to share with Pearl.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. It's time for another Conversations with Pearl, and I am Pearl Sharanza with Women's Successful Living, also known as the girl who gives you wisdom. And today we have a really great guest today, and we've met here and there around locally here in Tampa. And I just love following Dawn. And Dawn DiMicco is the founder of Epic Redemption Coaching. She has utilized her experience as a mental performance coach, dual sport challenge, collegiate athlete, former military spouse, and business owner to help her clients gain the confidence, courage, and mental toughness they need in order to live the life they meant to. Dawn, welcome to the show today.
I'm so excited to be here.
This is so cool. So I want you to just share with the listeners first a little bit about yourself. Tell us where you're from and what led you down to the coaching realm that you do today.
I am originally from New York. I was married to someone in the military, so we traveled around in the United States. I didn't actually go abroad at all. And I was, as you mentioned, a dual sport collegiate athlete. So I was always in the athletic world, and I insisted I would never coach. I didn't want to coach sports. I didn't want to go down like the gym teacher route, the coaching route, because I instinctively knew how to do things, and I didn't know how to teach people how to do what I did. And so it would be too frustrating. I decided I didn't want to do it. I was good at the act of, the athletics. And then years and years later, after continually fighting it, I had put on a lot of weight after college and had to get myself back in shape. And through that process, I sort of regained myself and then wanted to start helping other people do the same thing, and then became a personal trainer. And lo and behold, I was doing more coaching than training, really teaching people all of the pieces behind getting themselves well, and absolutely fell in love with it. It's kind of funny when you do what is in your heart that you didn't realize how everything kind of works out. And from then on, I do fitness and nutrition coaching. I now coach trainers and nutrition coaches, the business aspect of their jobs. And it's just been a blast.
Isn't it funny how life leads you down a path? You're like, so no. And then all of a sudden it's like, it's always been there and you have to just step into it. I often say in the show that, we come into this world, God gives us these great talents. And if we don't tap into them for ourselves, we're cheating ourselves. But then if you don't bring them forward, I can't learn and be inspired by the talents that you have. And you're the exact example of that. Like you fought it, said, no, I'll just keep it to me. And then you're like, let me do this. And now you're inspiring so many people around the world. And it's just so awesome.
And it's crazy because you don't realize, I knew that I had different talents. I knew I had different gifts. I could never figure out how they all came together, right? Like I have this low voice. People hear me. I have a presence, like a physical presence that people see and they listen. And I couldn't figure out how that fit with my super chatty attitude, with like the way my mind works. And then when it all comes together and God reveals his plan, you're like, oh, like it was so obvious all along.
Yeah, and it's so true because I remember when I met you a few years ago at a networking event, I remember thinking you just described yourself like how I thought about you. Like, here's this, kind of quiet, but you've got that presence, and that's courage too. And like you talk about in your book, that's that stepping into that courage. And so I want to talk about your book for a little bit. Tell us about Courage Rising. First of all, listeners, I have the book right here. It's called Courage Rising, and it's a great, easy read. And the way Dawn breaks it out with questions. So, oftentimes you read these self-help books or these great empowerment books and you're just like, you're reading, but she makes you do some homework in this book. So tell us about that and how the idea came about.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this book was a really interesting path. A little over a year ago, about a year and a half ago, I finally wanted to pursue this desire that I've had to speak. I want to be on stages. I feel like I have this message that I am supposed to share, but wasn't really sure what that message was. So I joined the National Association Speakers Academy so that I could learn the business of speaking. But I went there without a particular topic or a particular message that I wanted to share, just knowing I can speak, but what is it that I'm supposed to share? And I've been trying to tap into that and really listen to what that call is on my life. And all I kept thinking of was I need to talk about confidence. The times in my life where I'm at my best was when I was most confident. And so I started to try to dissect that because there were a lot of really lows throughout that where I had none at all. And so as I was dissecting it and trying to figure out and putting it together, I started to formulate kind of a method on how you actually develop confidence. Because, I mean, maybe some people are born with a predisposition to be more confident, but regardless, it can be developed. And even if you do have that, you need to continually work on it. And throughout the Speakers Academy, they kept bringing in speakers that talked about the value of having a book and what a book can do for you as far as open doors, build credibility, gives you some training material. And as I was trying to develop a keynote, I was struggling. And so I thought, maybe I'll write the book. And then I was struggling to write the book. And nothing was coming out. I had all these ideas in my head, all these pieces. I had a board. Well, actually, it was a wall. And I had all these sticky notes on the wall with all of the pieces that are ultimately in this book, but I couldn't get it to come together. And so I just figured, this isn't what I'm supposed to be talking about. I missed something. I ended up going and hiring a coach to get clarity on what it is I'm supposed to be doing. Went down this whole mental performance route because I'm really strong at consistency and discipline. So I ended up creating an entire program around mindset, developing consistency and discipline. I was ready to launch it. I was going to share it with salespeople, talking about, how to have this fourth quarter mindset all year. And I was getting ready to launch. I had a workbook. I have a course. I had a whole coaching plan. My coach was out of town for a couple of weeks and I panicked. I was like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. Something didn't feel right. And of course, it doesn't feel right as you're going to do something scary. I questioned everything. And she was out of town. So I put everything on pause. I'm not posting anything. I ended up, what every person should do is call an ex-girlfriend to kind of talk them down, right? So I called my ex-girlfriend, who I'm really good friends with, and told her I panicked, that it didn't feel right. I'm supposed to use the tools and the training and everything I learned and everything I did, but I'm really supposed to be speaking about confidence. And I'm supposed to be writing about confidence, whether that's what I'm coaching or not. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. And she was like, of course you are. Like, super simple, super basic, as calm as could be. And I was like, but I tried it already and it didn't work. And I can picture her over the phone just smiling and laughing in her head, saying, you were always supposed to write the book. You just weren't ready. She's like, look at what you did over the course of the last year. Look at the successes you had. Look at the failures that you had to go through. Look at who you've come into over that year. I came out and I discovered this whole part of me and started finally living in alignment with who I was. And the one piece of the book that wasn't coming together, as you go through it, I use an acronym, and it was the A. And the A is alignment. You cannot be living a fully confident, courageous life if you're not in alignment. And I wasn't. And my A was not alignment originally. And that's why it wouldn't all come together. And so while my coach was away, I was like, I'm going to write the book. And I sat down, and over the next 2 weeks, I wrote the book. And it was actually written in 2 weeks. You're supposed to typically, when you write a book, have an audience in mind, right? They always tell you, know who your audience is, who you're supposed to speak to. I didn't even know who my audience was. I just needed to get it out. And the audience has revealed itself. I did it all backwards. And it's just that reminder that sometimes you have to listen to, really, I had to listen to my body. It wasn't my head. It was my body was telling me what to do. I knew instinctively that I was doing something wrong. And sometimes you just have to act and then figure it out later. And that's kind of a really long version of how the book came about.
That is, and you're right. It is, because I've written a couple of books, and I've done collaborative books. I haven't written my own, but I'm in the process of doing my own collaborative book. But you're right, because they do say, know your audience. You did, that backwards. But kudos for your girlfriend to be like, you've always known. And the thing is like, we always know inside, but sometimes we need that person to be like, you've always known that. Why are you doubting yourself? Because we do. And that's that front part of our brain that tells us you can't do it. You're not worthy. You don't deserve it. We forget that the back part of that brain tells us so many great things that we need to open the file cabinet and listen to. But we tuck it back there because we have these false beliefs. Those emotional intelligent things are telling us, your emotions are, again, like I said, you're not, you don't deserve it. Write a book. What are you thinking about? Right. And wow. And then to think about, like, I've been there, like, you get all the way through something and you just get to that like, okay, I'm ready to go past the line. It's like, whoa, I don't know if I can do this race right now. It's just, I love how you explain it. And I love how you put in the book that it's, ask questions. And, I don't know, it sounds like you didn't have a lot of guidance. You just kind of went with yourself. And so what was your thoughts behind making those, you have powerful questions in here. Like you asked the questions. Let me find the one I was just reading the other day. Um, oh, what's holding yourself back? What are you holding yourself back from? That's a big question. And listen, you guys, she asked that right in the beginning of the book. I was like, wow, she's hitting you hard right at the start. So tell us how that layout came for you. Because a lot of times when we do books, people don't think about making the audience interactive that's reading your book.
Right. I think it's so important, especially in this self-help book realm. And I mentioned my audience kind of revealed themselves. I wanted anybody that picked this book up to be able to benefit from it, right? If you've been doing self-help reading, it's always the same stuff, just kind of packaged different, right? There's nothing completely new in this book. But my goal is if you've done a lot of self-help, you're going to look at something a little bit differently, take a new nugget. But a lot of the women that have read this book have not read any self-help books before. So this is really their first experience with it. And I think it's a really important question to ask because instinctively, a lot of times we say, well, it's fear holding me back or I'm holding myself back. It wasn't so much fear that held me back from launching that other program. It was not fear in the same way. It was fear of success. I hold myself back a lot because of what comes with success. And then when you dig into that, the first time I said it out loud years ago, I was like, well, that's ridiculous. Who fears success? But then when you start to look at when you become successful, all of the other moving pieces and parts that happen, all of the things you have to leave behind, all of the things you now have to strive for, for me, that's huge. Then there's other people that are holding themselves back, not because of themselves, but because of other people for various reasons. And I think until we know what holds us back, we can't possibly move forward. And if we don't hit that in the beginning, the rest isn't going to all make sense.
That's so true. And I love that part of coaching when I'm working with, I primarily work with women. And that's what we talk about. It's like, why, because we have it inside. We know what it is. We just need to dig it out. And the way you do in the book, it helps people dig it out because I'm the same way. I'm like, why, what do you think is holding you back? What's some of the trauma you had back in your day that maybe is holding you back today, and let's work through that. And I love that. Even like if you have kids, so the listeners that have kids, it's the same kind of things with your kids. Like what's holding them back? You might find it's somebody at school is bullying them or that they might lack the confidence, and then help them work with that. If you see that, it's so powerful if you can help your young kids today work through when they have fear. Mommy, I can't run. Yes, you can. Let's talk about running. If that's, if you want to play football. I remember when my oldest son was playing football at high school and he would have doubts. And my husband, like if they lost a game, Bloomingdale High School is where he went. And if they lost a game, he would come home and be like, he would critique everything he did wrong. And we would sit there and go, what about the things you did right? It's like, that's the first thing we would go to. And I would go to bed after probably about an hour because I had filmed them the whole time. I was exhausted at the end of the game. I never got to see the game other than behind a lens. So it was really daunting. And then him and Chuck, my husband, they would be up for like hours. Sometimes I remember Chuck would come bed at 3:00 in the morning. I'm like, wow. He's like, I need him to see that it's not just about the loss. Yes, it's sad that you guys lost. Yes, but there's a lesson in the loss, Right. And so we try to help him build that confidence. And I love that you said that. So one of the things that I do, we were talking before we hopped on, is I have a group of ladies that I coach. And when they come into my program, we have what's called the Shero League. And it's a community of women that get together every Sunday evening from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. And you can wear makeup, be in your PJs. We don't care. Just show up as you are. And we find it's a great way to end your week and a great way to start your week. And so what's something, Dawn, that you do during the week, like the weekend comes, and what do you do? I'm thinking of some things I read in your book too, but what do you do when you are ending your week and preparing for the next week? What's some of the things you walk through?
Well, I also have a planner. And so in the Clear Planner, my Sunday, I have it right here. My Sunday page looks a little different. Of course, this is a blank one. But one of the things I do on Sundays is at some point during the day, oftentimes mid-afternoon, I kind of get into I zone out on Sundays. I'll do some grocery shopping. I'll watch, right now I'm watching old reruns of Scorpion on like Freevee or something on the television. And I sit down and I look at my wins for the week. So where did I win? Losses. And I call them losses in my planner because sometimes they are, right? And we always learn from them. What were my struggles for the week? What were my breakthroughs? Where were my aha moments? What do I need to be doing differently that's going to get me to the next step? And then I write out my goals for the week ahead. And then, of course, as I'm doing that, I review my goals from the previous week. Okay, what did I do? What didn't I do? What is it that I need to focus on moving forward? And I don't spend a whole lot of time on it. I just spend a few minutes just, again, looking through the week. And I think it's so important that you talked about with your son, you focused on what did you do well. In my planner every day, to recap the day, I write down wins that I had in the day. And sometimes it's like I kept my mouth shut when I didn't want to, right? I mean, sometimes it's those wins, but it's looking for the things that went well, because there are days where we're not as productive as we want to be. We're not as successful as we want to be, but when we can still identify things that still keep you moving forward, keep the needle going forward, it's important. And I'm going to be honest, I don't always do it at the end of the day because sometimes I'm lazy. Sometimes I forget. But when I sit down the next morning during my morning time, I'll always go back and make sure I record what the wins were for the day before. And that's really what gets me kind of mentally prepared. I first zone out. I try not to do a whole lot of work on Sunday when I can help it. And then I just focus on, okay, what do I need to get done? What are the most important things? And that will, again, continue moving me forward.
I love that you look at the week and that you recognize the losses, because like you said, there's lessons to learn in everything, and then also the breakthroughs and the ahas, because we get up and we can control our day, and sometimes things don't go the way we want to, but if we let that control the rest of our day, then that's going to lead us down that rabbit hole of that unworthiness and I messed up and all those thoughts. Where that's why every morning I get up, my affirmation every morning is, I am beautifully, wonderfully made, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm going to learn a lesson today, and I'm open to receiving all that comes. Because that way I'm recognizing and telling myself, I'm not going to have a perfect day every day. And that's okay, right? That's okay to not have that perfect day. But I like too what you said about recording at the end of the day or in the next morning, at least before you start that new day. How was my day? How was my day before? And what do I need to change? Maybe my attitude, change the way I'm doing something, whatever that is, and recognize and write that down, because it's so powerful and important that we recognize our wins and recognize our what our losses were and what those lessons were. So I love that you shared that.
Yeah. And it provides you with that evidence that you need, right? When we get those doubts in our head, those unworthy thoughts, no, you now have written proof that you've done amazing things. And I really started paying attention to that. I was working with my best friend at the time, and she was telling me about how she was so unproductive that day. She had to do something with the kids, and then the car needed, and she went through this whole list of things that didn't go right in the day. But at the same time, she told me about the conversation with the guy at the dealership who was going to be joining her program. And then she talked about the phone call that she had with somebody else that she made an appointment to have lunch with. And she started, like, there were all of these wins. And I said, hold on, you got more accomplished for work in your day than I did in mine. And I didn't have all those things going on. And when she sat down and thought about it, she was like, wow, you're right. I was ready to throw this day away. And she got really down on herself. And then when she started looking at all of the things that really did go well, it changed everything for her. And that was so powerful to me. And I know I've heard that in the past, right? We hear things, we're told things, we're taught things, especially when you're in the self-help world. But until you see it and experience it, it was like this whole eye-opening moment. I was like, I need to record that stuff every day and have my body of proof, my evidence that supports who I really am.
Yeah, it's so powerful, because you were right. We see all the stuff that didn't go right, and we forget those things that pop in that, oh, we did that great, that went well. And I have a client that every time when she first started working with me, it was always, oh, this or that. I'm like, okay, you can't walk in here and give me anything bad that happened to you. I want all good, because you're going to bring me down, and I don't want you bringing me down. And I'm not going to allow you to bring me down with you, And so she started coming in. She's like, okay, here's my win. I'm like, I like that, So I love that.
That is the first thing I do with every coaching call that I have with my clients is tell me your wins for the week. And we start there, especially when it's a fitness and nutrition client, because we know that those can go really tough, especially when you don't see a scale move and that's your goal. So it's like, okay, well, what were the other wins? What went well? And then they start realizing all the things going well. Suddenly, oh yeah, the scale, that is the secondary thing. That's going to be the result later. We got to focus on the good things in the process to get to that end goal. And everything changes just with that one simple question.
Yeah. When I first started my coaching world, it was just health and wellness. And my clients could never understand. I learned what not to do from the person that I went through the program with. Mm-hmm. And so the first thing I did was, we are not getting on the scale first, because that was the first thing that she did when they would come in. And so when I started working with a new client, they'd sit down, we'd have a conversation, we'd go over their health profile. And I'd be like, okay, you're going to, whatever program you do, whether it's mine or somebody else's, if you do it right, you're going to lose weight. If you have the right mindset, it's going to work. But I want to know what's life like after you reach this goal. You want to, you haven't even told me the goal. I don't even want to know what it is yet. And they're like, what? We're not going to scale first? Like, and I do art therapy often. And I would be like, and so when they told me what that life was like, I'm like, okay, so your homework between now and next week is to draw me a picture of whatever their goal was. And like going, I have to color. Like they couldn't get it. And I love telling the story. I've told the story a few times on the show where I had a client, she'd been divorced for 10 years and she wanted a relationship. I was like, awesome. What does he look like? You know, and she's like, well, this is what he looks like. And this, and I said, okay, has he been married before? Does he have kids? She's like, what? I'm like, these are things you need to know. Like if you're going to go on a date tonight, what are the questions you're going to want to in some way or another entwine into that date and ask, right? And she's like, oh my God, I never thought about this. So we made her do this whole process. It took her 2 weeks to really draw out what it looked like and everything, which was great. And a few years passed and I ran into her in Publix and she's like, oh my gosh, I want you to meet somebody. I'm like, okay, cool. And he comes around the corner and he was exactly what she had done and drew. And he comes around the corner and she was just, I go, I've met you before. He's like, what? I'm like, let her tell you the story, but I've met you before.
We created you.
It's so fun to watch that. It's so fun as a coach to watch that. So one of the things in the Shero League, people always say, what's Shero? And it's just, for me, it doesn't just mean a female hero. It means something. It's got, so we've broke it down. The S is strong. And, you know, I really believe, you see my wall, I'm all about positive thoughts and everything. And so I believe that, you know, oftentimes when it comes to self-care, we feel guilty when we put ourselves first. It's that whole front lobal thing telling you're selfish. You don't take time for everybody else. Why are you putting yourself first? And, you know, I always have done that. My son passed last July at 25 and he would see me do that. He would see me and he would ask me, how do you do that? Like he watched me go through crazy stuff, challenges in my life, and of course successes. And so I would say, listen, if I can't wrap myself in my cape first and make sure it's wrapped all the way around me so I can button it in the back, then I can't pour into you guys. I can't do for you, your dad and your brother. And I can't do for my clients that I need to do. And so with his passing, I was like, I can't live my life any differently. I had people say, you know, I do a retreat every year. Matt passed in July. September last year, I did my retreat. They're like, how are you still doing that? I'm like, because that's how I lived and I can't be, and that's who I am. It's in my DNA now. It's like what, you know, I use the tools in my toolbox. I can't change that. And so, you know, I feel like that word strong or strength is as you do step into owning what you want, owning your desires, having the confidence and courage to say to your loved ones, listen, it's not that I don't love you. It's say to your job. It's not that I don't love my job. I'm just not going to put the number of hours I put in here at work. Tell your family, I'm not going to be, you know, maybe you're a working from home mom or you're stay-at-home mom, which I call CEO moms. I don't like stay-at-home mom, or you're a working CEO mom. You have to put yourself first because you can't take care of everybody else. And communicating that is so, so important. So as you learn to communicate that, learn to share what your expectations are for yourself with your loved ones and so forth, I feel like you get this new strength or confidence, as you might call it, right? And courage. And so I would love to know the word strong in your life, somewhere in your life. And Dawn, you've gone through a lot in the book. You shared, you know, your divorce and coming out. Share with us what you remember digging in deep into your strength and saying, I'm going to do this.
Wow. That is such a good question. You did not give me that ahead of time. All right, let's see. I think for me, the biggest was stepping forward and finally telling my ex-husband that I didn't want to be married anymore, that I didn't want to work on it. And for me, that was really hard because I grew up with the expectation that you get married, that you chose that person, you make that work. I had that ingrained into me, just seeing that in family, right? You work through it regardless, or the other side, you ignore it and just keep going, or through various churches that I had belonged to and various sermons that I listened to where you just make it work. And I had been unhappy for years and years, and I didn't have the courage to step up sooner. We never went through counseling. It's something that I knew we needed. Had we done that years prior, maybe would things have worked out differently? I don't know, but we would have had a better chance. And so finally, I mean, a little bit it's admitting defeat, right? It's having the strength to say this didn't work. And also knowing that there were times that I didn't give it my best. And that's counterintuitive to me. It's always about giving your best effort every chance you can, and just admitting that I was defeated, and then admitting that I didn't want to work on it. Because at that point I knew my heart had grew hard. I had grown tired. And at that point, I also was starting to realize that I was not interested in being married to a man. So all of this was coming at the same time. And so I think for me, that strength was doing it for me at the same time, knowing that I was really hurting someone else. And I think that's where, when you talk about putting yourself first, sometimes you have to do that, even though it hurts somebody else, but also knowing deep in my heart that he, whether he'll ever admit it or not, is better for it. Right. I believe he's in a happy relationship now. I believe he's getting married. Right. Like there's all these other good things that are going to happen for him. And, so it was better for both of us. But I think that was the strongest moment of my life. And I did it in a really weak way, which I talked about in the book.
Yeah, that was a very unique way, Dawn. You have to read the book to find out. I'm not going to tell them. They have to go read the book. It's called Courage Rising, and we'll share it too. But you're right, because sometimes we have to make these choices that we know it's going to hurt the loved ones, but we have to do it because we know it's the right thing for us. And you didn't intentionally mean to hurt him. You didn't intend, and you gave it's so true. We grew up, and I was talking about something on a couple episodes ago. We were talking about when you get married, you don't have marriage mentors, right? We have coaching for all this other stuff. There's no like marriage mentors. And when Chuck and I got married, we're Catholic. And so before we got married, we had to go for the engagement encounter. We lived in California, so we decided to go for a weekend one because it was a beautiful little retreat place they had. And we went in there. I think there was 8 or 9 couples. And they made you ask questions around finance and kids and all these things, right? And we jokingly laughed when Chuck said, "How many kids you want?" He's like, "Oh, I want 12. His mom is from a family of 16. I was like, "Listen, off the first 3, you can have the next group of kids and we'll just make money because we'll make history." And we just kind of laughed. That's how we are. We just kind of, our relationship's a lot like that. But we remember sitting in that at the end and watching, I think half of the couples walked away not getting married because they had to ask tough questions. Relationship. Excuse me. I think we had to talk about, sexual questions and things like that. Right. So it was really powerful. And I was like, wow, this is really, everybody should go through this. I was like, walking out going, I don't care if you're what religion you are, everybody should do these questions. But you're right, because we don't have, I grew up to, excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. I grew up to, like you, where everybody was married. My mom's from Albany, is where your family's from. And they grew up completely, that was their example. And they didn't know anything different. Like you said, you pick the person, you're with them forever. And, that was one of the things my oldest son asked us as well, is like, how did you know? Because he went in seeing us, knowing that, it's not, and we were very big examples to our kids to not, my parents, what they would argue or whatever, they wouldn't talk to each other for like 2 weeks at a time. I grew up in a house, no communication. And that's all I knew. So when my husband and I met and we would have, a challenge or something, I would be like, shut down, not going to say. And then what he did, Dawn, is he would start having my conversation with him. And I was like, no, that's not what I would say. So I learned how to communicate because of him. But, I grew up watching my granny. My grandfather had passed before I can remember him being around. And I watched her always in the kitchen doing, those were the examples we had. And so a few episodes ago, we were talking about, you get married, and if you melt down over a grilled cheese sandwich being made, nobody talks about why are you melting down over that, and you're right. When we go into these relationships, we should be going in that this is, a very long-term relationship, but sometimes we don't know. And sometimes no matter what your relationship, whether it's marriage or whatever it is, you have to make those decisions. It could be your job. Sometimes you're like, God, I've been doing this job for 10 years and I just don't like it anymore. And this is not who I am. Many people would be like, I think too, through COVID, we saw a lot of that where people were like, I'm not happy. I don't like
Yeah.
this. And then once they got through COVID, they decided. So I love that example you gave. And sorry, I didn't, I tricked you on the question, but
Well, no, that was a perfect. Well, and I think also we get comfortable, and
yes.
for me to step away was going to be scary, right? Like I was married to somebody that he was a, retired lieutenant colonel. He's, working for the government. We didn't have kids. Like financially, we were very well set. I lived in a nice house. I love his family. We got, we had gotten along for a long time. There were times in my life where things were really great with him. And so that stepping away is also really scary because, it's going into this unknown. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. And, fortunately, I had a ton of support. I knew I was going to be okay. And so that that gave me a little more strength than maybe I would have had otherwise. And I see why people stay sometimes when they know that they shouldn't be.
Yeah, I remember. So my parents divorced after 43 years of marriage, and yeah, and I was like, when I found out how my parents met, I was like, "Ma, really? You married him still?" I was like, "Come on, it's." I won't share the story here, but my mom at least said I had enough. I don't want any more, and I was like, I think because of the faith and everything, she waited till the kids got older and stuff like that. And I have a friend locally here, the same thing. After almost 20 years, their kids went off to college and they divorced. And I feel like, when you lack that courage and maybe you don't have support, like you had the support, when you do that, I also feel like we have to think about if we stay, how's it affect those around us, whether you have kids or the other, right? It can affect them and relationships and things like that. So I love that example you gave.
And what are you modeling for your kids?
Right.
I've had that conversation with friends who are like, well, we're just going to do it for the kids. Like kids are smart. They feel, they know when something's not right. So then you get into that, what's the example I'm setting, or how much more damage is this doing them being in this situation rather than seeing both parents happy?
Right.
It's just, it's such a hard balance.
It really is. Cause you're exactly right. Kids are smart. They know, and they're resilient too. I mean, and the thing is they're going to learn it's going to be tough things in their life. So how are they going to respond to that? Oh, I'm going to stick it out, and God help us if it's in a really bad situation. Right. So I love you share that. So now the H stands for happy, because I feel like as you build that strength and you learn that confidence and have that courage through that being so strong, then you start to find your happiness and you start to feel like, okay, this is what it can feel like, that I am taking control of what I want. And so thinking about happiness, tell us what makes you happy. When you think about the word happy, what's the first thing that comes to your mind that just like, oh, it just makes you feel so good?
It's kind of crazy. As you were talking that, I was trying to formulate, and I'm like, okay, well, who's listening that I need to? No. I think watching, for me, it's been really watching and experience people like come into their own and come into their potential. But really, I think about my nephew, who is a miserable little boy. He is 8. He does not like people anymore, but he is a stud on the soccer field. He is playing 2 age groups, above his age, and just seeing him in his element, seeing his focus, his intensity, his drive, seeing me in him when I was that age, and just remembering like being like totally carefree and at home and comfortable and confident. That for me, my happy place was always the basketball court. And I remember as I got older and I would be struggling, I'd find my way over to a gym and just wander around a basketball court, shoot some baskets by myself, just to be where I felt the safest and most secure and strongest. And so I think for me, watching my nephew experiencing that, seeing my sister be that crazy parent on the side and experiencing that is like pure happiness to me right now.
I love that. And if you're not watching, Donna's like smiling, like the biggest grin as she's talking about that. And it's so true to watch kids like enjoy something like that. That's the one thing I loved about, watching my oldest one. He played football, and watching him play football and be on the court. And then I remember a story too, that he wasn't running to where we knew he should be. Like the coach was frustrated at practice, and it's like, he's just not running the laps. And I was like, I had lost over 60 pounds and I could wear his jerseys. And so I had one of his jerseys on that day, and his coach is like, comes over to me. I'm like, I know, just tell him if he doesn't do it, I'm going to go do it for him. I'm going to show him up. And he's like, Miss Pearl, you're going to go out there? I'm like, yeah, if he doesn't do it, I'll do it. Cause I love when he would just step in the element, just stop, right? He was just goofing off and he heard I was going to come and he's like right away, no, my mom is not. Cause he knew I would, he knew that
Right.
I would show him up, and then my youngest son, Nate, he played baseball. He played a little bit of soccer. Matt was my athlete. Nate got the smarts, Matt was smart too, but Nate was like, I can build my own computer. I don't need to go buy it. He was just so like, I call him my old soul. And we were like, you gotta play a sport. So he decided to do baseball. And I remember we switched over from a small league and we switched over to a little bigger league for him. And at the small league, they didn't teach them the fundamentals, like what was bunting, right? And I remember being out there and he was getting ready to bat and the coach tells him bunt. And Nate had no clue what bunting was, right? They hadn't even, verified. There was an assumption by that age he had learned bunting from the other leagues. And the coach is like, he swings. He's like, that's not bunting. And, it's a game. And I was like, okay, he's going to freak Nate out. Nate's not going to want to play because I know I wouldn't want to play if you're yelling at me. And so finally I went over to the coach. I'm like, very quickly I ran over. I'm like, he doesn't know what bunting is. He's like, what? He's like, okay, Nate, just swing. And then that week, it was so cool. It was fun to watch Nate learn how to bunt. It was like, oh, okay, he's got it. And he was good at it once he learned it, But Again, he wasn't my sports guy. He was like, I'm done with baseball. When middle school or high school came, he was like, I'm not following that. That's not me. I want to go do computer stuff. So yeah, I love watching kids and play sports and get that confidence. It's so fun. Now the E stands for empowered. And because as you're coming through the first two letters, I feel like you're starting to be like, you're really stepping up and you're stepping into that confidence and you feel empowered. I've got a goal. I have my vision. I want to go start a business. I want to go to work part-time, or I want to stay home, whatever that is. You feel like you've got that empowerment now to do that. So thinking about empowerment, Dawn, when you were going through, like when you came out to your family and that's a challenge, right? Because you never know how your family's going to respond. I have friends that have too, and it's been not good things, but some have been great things. Tell me how that empowerment, where did you dig deep to be empowered to be like, this is exactly who I am and I'm owning it?
It took a lot of time. And I mean, people that have known me my whole life, when they finally heard and I finally shared, I mean, if you go back to my Facebook and see the post where literally it was a picture of me with my girlfriend at the time saying like, I think it said something like, in case you were wondering, and then it said, yes, I'm happy or whatever. And the comments were like, it's about time. We've been waiting 30 years, right? So, I mean, people knew, but just to be able to be open and out and free and in public. And I mean, honestly, I wanted a relationship. I knew I wanted a relationship. I live near my family now. I needed them to know I wasn't actively dating at the time when I shared. I always thought I would share when I found somebody and it was worth sharing about. I had kind of dated quietly without, friends and family knowing. But for me, it was being able to actually share with them and tell them, look, like I want to date and I don't want to have to hide. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to whoever I'm going to be dating. And it's not fair to you if you run into me on a date or your friends see me and start talking about it. And so that was huge. And then just being surrounded and surrounding myself with just the most loving, amazing people, and them allowing me to be me, them allowing me to dress the way I want to dress, speak the way I want to speak, do the things I want to do is huge. And for me, it made it a lot easier. And I'm still figuring myself out, figuring out my style. One of my favorite things about the first girl that I had dated when I came out, she had looked through all my pictures and she told me flat out, she goes, please never wear a dress again. And I joked that was the moment I fell in love, right? Like, oh, thank you. And she said, it's not that you don't look good in a dress, but you look so uncomfortable that it takes away from your look. And that was where I was like, you're right. Like when you're not living in alignment with who you are and you're trying to be in this other box, I'm not comfortable that way and I don't present comfortably. She's like, you look beautiful. But it's that like, you can tell that I'm not comfortable. And when you're not comfortable, you're not fully you. And so that was, that's just empowering. Having people say that, speak that, be that for you.
That's awesome. I mean, and to have somebody tell you that, that's like, so it is. I get what you're saying. It's very empowering. And I love that as you went through the process of letting your family know, you were very genuine about it, and letting them know, listen, I don't want you to run into me, so I thought that was really great. I could just see that your mom or dad running
Well,
into
I'm in small town Wesley Chapel.
Yeah.
All the neighbors in their community are like, what's your kid doing out there?
That's what's so fun about Tampa. Don't you find that? Like, Tampa seems so big, but within Tampa area, there's these little towns and everybody knows each other. It's so cool. That's why we moved here from Virginia. So
I'm 44 and I'm worried about my parents' friends talking about me to my parents still.
Right. Yeah, I was just going to bring that up too. And then I was going to say, yeah, like, you're in your 40s and you're worried. Yeah. Isn't that funny how we still do that? We think about, because we love them, and
right.
it's important that they understand. And I love that you said that. So now R stands for radiance. And so I'm going to take this. I'm taking it from a guest I had. She goes, you mean like glowing up? I'm like, yeah. So I feel like as you go through all these steps and you become empowered, and you're really stepping into it. You're just about there, back to your authentic self. And so you've got this new glow about yourself, and you're just like, okay, there's something going on. I'm going to go with it. Right. So tell us about a time in your life when you just felt like this aura was around you and you just knew, I have to do this. I have to go through this. And I know you gave the example, about almost with this program and then going, oh, that's stop. But tell us about, maybe it's the book. Maybe there's something that said, I feel like it's the book for you. It just feels like that. I'm looking at it I just love the cover too. I just love the cover here. It's so powerful. So I'd love you to tell us about how the cover came about, because I feel that's your radiance right now.
Yeah, I definitely think it was the book, because again, while we talked about in the beginning, when you write a book, you're supposed to know your audience. Well, my book was for me. I wrote it for me. It was about me getting it out and doing what I needed to do. The cover is, the phoenix, right? That whole idea of rising up from ashes. My company's been named Epic Redemption. That was when I was doing some coaching a long time ago. That was like, I was doing Beachbody, which is, multi-level marketing. I built a team. Our team was Epic Redemption. And for me, redemption has a big spiritual piece, of course. But to me, redemption was always that athlete mindset, like that comeback, right? When you lose and then you get to redeem yourself when you play that team again. And so for me, it was always about that comeback. And I remember sitting down with a good friend of mine, Jess, years ago, and we were doing an interview of each other that we recorded, that we were ultimately going to use for content later. It was this really powerful exercise that we were doing. And I kept talking about this comeback, this second chance, and still trying to figure out who I was, what I was supposed to be doing. She's like, when you figure out your redemption story, like, that's what it's going to be. And for me, it's that really finding my way back to me and becoming who I was always supposed to be, that I hid from for so long. Not just my sexual orientation, right? But like really stepping in and owning, I was a badass back in the day, right? I was this athlete that took no prisoners. And then I moved into this like military spouse. And while some military spouses thrive and become stronger, it's not that I wasn't strong, but I allowed myself to just kind of fade into the background, not dream or think or be. And so for me, it was really that opportunity to write this book and share with others. You talk about that radiance, and I see that in my current girlfriend, Lisa, and she's gone through some stuff. She's had just a lot of trauma in her life, and seeing her starting to come out of it since we've been dating has been just incredible. Seeing how she's taking care of herself physically where she hadn't been, seeing like her smile when we're together, it's just been like, I think that's the second piece of the radiance, like when it expands beyond you to the people around you. And seeing how me changing me is impacting the people that I love and care about has been like, I think that's like ultimate radiance.
I love that. And I love that when you explain, like with Lisa, with your girlfriend, Lisa, like as you come out, it's like you get that confidence and that radiance just starts to glow. And I just love the cover, because I really feel like it's like you're like rising into your courage and your confidence, and really like, and stepping into that epic. I just love that epic redemption. It's so, so powerful. And so the last is and the last for me is original. And so original for me is, like I said earlier in the show, have these great talents. You're born like you've been crafted as you come into this world with some talents and gifts and that you need to do for yourself, but then you need to start pointing forward, like what you're doing with this book and laying out with the book questions in there is so powerful, as I said earlier. But I feel like you start really you work through all the other letters, and now you're stepping into that real authentic self. And you were original, you're already that original person's in there, but now you're really being like, this is who I am. I am not changing who I am. My original self, authentic self is coming forward, and I'm ready to take on the world. Like nothing's stopping me. So thinking about that and thinking about, because I know you've done, I watched, I follow you, we've met before. I love this book. I really feel like that's what you're doing with this book. Tell us right now, like, what's the next thing? What's that, as you've stepped more into this becoming, courageous and your authentic self, tell us what's around the horizon for you.
Wow. I wish I knew. That's what I've been trying to figure out. I will say I've been really fortunate and blessed through my divorce. Initially, I didn't know where I was going to be. And so I had to immediately and quickly work to earn right away. With, the alimony that I get I don't have to earn right away. So I have a little bit of time to figure that out. So I'm very blessed in that way. So I've been kind of settling back and knowing like, okay, I can figure this out. I still feel that I'm supposed to be speaking. In my heart, I'm supposed to be speaking. And the reaction and response, I didn't advertise this book. The people that are reading this book were from my social media, from my Facebook. If I sold 100 books, I was going to be super excited. I wasn't looking to earn money from this book. I was really just using this so that I could have a book, right? Like I wanted to build credibility and I wanted to open doors to speaking. But now like I'm seeing the impact that it's had on the women that have read it. I've had so many friends reach out to me that read the book. And I was like, oh my gosh, you read it? They're like, well, yeah, because they're so supportive of me. My favorite is I had one woman reach out to me and say, this is the book that I never knew I needed. Right. I had another friend saying, you talk about these questions. She goes, in doing these questions, I realized I need to do this because my kids are watching. My daughters are now at that age where, the things that I need to fix that formed when I was younger, I can help them now by the words that I use, the thoughts that I have. And so for me, it's, I'm already starting to outline the next book. It's going to have to do with more mindset stuff. It's going to utilize some of that program where I was talking about creating this fourth quarter mindset all year. But really like it's figuring out how am I going to get this book to the people that need it most? Where is my audience hiding? And how can I share this message with the audience? Is the women that need this book that don't know they need it. Talk about an easy group to find, right? Like, so it's finding where they are, meeting them in that place and just encouraging them. Really quickly, when I started that Speakers Academy, there's a book and I keep referencing this book. It's called On Purpose. I forget the name of the guy that wrote it. He spoke on it. And in the Speakers Academy, we went through this exercise and we had to answer a bazillion questions, right? It's one of those computer generated. You answer the questions and then it spits out your 2-word purpose.
Ooh,
right.
I love that.
And so you get to the end of this thing and I'm like, oh, I wonder what my purpose is. And of course they say this purpose can be implemented in your vision statement. This purpose can be used in your mission or your tagline, but this is your ultimate purpose in life. And it was a little over 1.5 years ago. And my purpose was instill courage.
Oh my gosh.
So for me, it's figuring out like my original, my O is how can I most effectively instill courage in the most people possible? Where can I make the biggest impact in instilling courage? So that was a very long answer.
No, I love that answer. And you're right. There's so many people who need this book that hopefully they're listening, and we're going to put all the links to grab the book. That's called Courage Rising. And I like I said, it's an easy process to read. It's easy to do the home. You're not going to sit down and read this whole book and do the homework in one day. So just so you know, it's a lot of process. So I love that. So one of the things we're working at right now, Dawn, is, everybody starts beginning of the year. They do their vision boards and stuff like that. I always like to get through January because people are doing all this stuff. And it's like, oh, I want to do this. I want to lose weight. And by the end of January, you're not doing it. So let's get through January and February. Let's start hitting the ground running. And so one of the things we're working on is joy, what brings you joy? And so they had to create 10 items that bring them joy. And it
Oh,
wasn't
wow.
just, getting up in the morning, why does it bring you joy? And so like one of the girls, she's a hairdresser, and she said, I love cutting, I love working with my clients. I'm like, that's great. I love working with my clients too. They're a lot of fun to work with. But why? Like, why do you like to do that? And as we broke it down, she was able to say, because when they leave, they have a new sense of confidence. They've got this new
Mhm.
hair, especially if they've had a radical change in their hairstyle, right? And I just thought it was so powerful. So that's what we're working on right now. And so I'm not going to ask you for 10, but I am going to ask you for your
Good.
top.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of work. It's not an overnight thing. But thinking about your top 3 things that bring you joy, tell us what they are and why do they bring you joy?
Wow, that's good. I'm gonna divert and play politics and answer a different question that you didn't ask. I want you to make sure that your hairdresser friend reads the chapter in the book where I talk about my hair and how that really changed my life, was cutting my hair, which is insane. All right, top 3 things. Well, I mentioned definitely my family. When I get to spend time with my family, I moved to Florida to be close to them, but particularly, like I said, watching my nephew in his element, watching my niece, who is the most unathletic member of my family of all time. She did gymnastics for a short time. I got a phone call from my sister one day that says, your niece just fell. And I was like, of course. She goes, but she was sitting on the ground when it happened, right? But watching her starting to come into her element through technology, she's phenomenal with, she's like 12, right? And she's doing video editing and all of these cool things. She's really into music and art. So that is absolutely joy to me. Of course, I love working with my clients, but particularly seeing their transformations and the connections that they make through their transformations, right? I started off doing fitness and nutrition coaching, but watching that total transformation and watching how taking care of their body, how much that affects their mindset and every aspect of their life, their confidence, not just because they're suddenly lighter, because they start experiencing those things before they're lighter, before their bodies change, they're feeling better. So for me, being able to help other people do that brings me huge joy. And then third, can I say my dog? Can I say Maverick? I'm sorry to
Absolutely.
I'm sorry to all my friends. I'm sorry to my girlfriend, but Maverick brings me the most joy. When you do icebreakers growing up, a lot of times it's what animal would you be and why? And I used to always say cat because we were cat people. And I used to say, I want to sleep when I want. Like cats have, if they don't like you, it's okay. Like they can be jerks and they're forgiving. It's just kind of like when you're really old, you can say whatever you want and it doesn't matter because you're old. It's the same thing with a cat. And I used to want to be a cat. But then I got around dogs and I was like, nope, I want to be a dog because if I can be as happy about anything as they are about everything, then my life is complete. Like, I mean, you walk in the door, they're excited. You get out of bed, they're excited. You sneeze, they're excited. It doesn't matter. And so if I can be as happy about anything as Maverick is about everything, it's seeing him, it's just a joy. It's just such a reminder every day. And because of him, people talk to me.
I love
You
that.
can't not talk to me when you're out with a cute corgi.
No, you can't. That's so fun. Yeah, I love that animals. Yeah, because animals do. That's the one thing my son, his dog Rico, Matt moved out with his girlfriend, not too long before he passed, but he left his dog Rico here. And your dogs are so connected to you, like they feel you, and it was such a great example because they know your emotions. So they can
They
be that
do.
comforter when you need it, and they can be that let's go for a run when you want it. And it was so. I remember when Matt passed that he was, Matt wasn't around. It was okay because Matt would come about every day, but it didn't hit me until we had to pick out the clothes for Matt. And I had him on
Mm.
the couch and he sat in that couch and he had these tears come down his eyes. And I was like, oh my gosh, and then I realized that he'd been kind of quiet. And we have a little dog, Chloe, too. I love both the dogs, but I don't like sleeping with dogs. It's like, get off my bed. And since my son passed, Rico is like, he's at my hip now all the time. Like where I go, he goes. When I'm on here, I have to put him in the closet because if he
Yep.
barks, of course, it makes all this noise. But when I like around 10 o'clock, he's my North Star to be like bedtime because I used to till all this happened, I used to like go 11 o'clock, 10 p.m. He's sitting next to me like, okay, are we going to bed? Are we going to bed? It's like,
Yeah.
So dogs, animals are just, I never wanted to be a cat. I always wanted to be a dog too. I remember that question growing up because a lot like what you said, because you can run and, there's so many things you can do. And it was a great example. Okay. So now we have this joy. We have to work to our joy, right? So now here comes a tough question. If you thought 3 were tough, here comes the next one. So we do these lists, these to-do lists, go grocery shopping, do the things we got to do for our clients, take time, our focus time in the morning. But I want to know, as they had to do, what's on your not to-do list? What do you have to stop doing that doesn't allow you to have your joy?
Wow. That's good. I know social media is a trap for me, but it's a trap I've gotten better under control, but I go down the rabbit hole when I had gotten out of a relationship where I spent a lot of time, too much time, following what that person was still doing on social media, just kind of like torturing yourself with things, getting caught in your head. So a lot of times, or it's, that comparison game when you're trying to do something and you're trying to compare what you're doing with what other people in your space are doing. And you have to stop doing that. You need to get away from that. You can't model, like I can't model my business off of what I see other people in my space doing because they're in a different place, right? I'm not ready to scale where they might be scaling. And so it's really tempting to try to get yourself ahead. And so for me, a big stop doing is getting down that social media rabbit hole, whether it be because I'm getting in my feelings and I'm kind of stalking old situations in my life, or it's that comparison game trying to, build based off of what other people are doing, which isn't where I'm at.
Those were great, especially comparison. Social media was my thing too. Now I've got better control of it as well, and comparison, because you're right.
I don't have better control. Let's just be clear. I need to. I don't yet.
No, that's on your not to do list. But you're right. I had that big issue too, and for the most part, I have it under control. There's a few times where we sway, but I love that you did that. I cannot believe I just looked down and like our time is like really winding down.
I know. I'm sorry.
Crazy. No, you're fine. It's great conversation. I love when this happens. So I just want you to give everybody an opportunity to know where they can reach you, and we're going to post all the links as well. But where can they reach you?
The easiest is just at Dawn DiMicco. It's DIMICCO. You can find my Instagram that way. You can find my LinkedIn, my Facebook. I spend the most time on Facebook. It's easy. It's fun. If you like ridiculousness, I do a dance party every Monday morning in my kitchen to kind of get the week started right. And I email. There's a couple different emails. Which one's in the book? Dawn@q4mindset.com or Dawn@epicredemption.com are easy ways to get to me.
And then tell them where they can find the book. It's called Courage Rising. Let them know where they can find the book.
You can get that right on Amazon. If you I have a bit.ly link that I'll give you for the show notes. That's going to be easy, but just Courage Rising and my name, and you'll see it pop right up on Amazon.
Fantastic. All right. So I already forewarned Dawn, everybody, that we're going to do our Better Questions, Better Life. So we're going to shuffle the cards. Dawn's going to tell us when to stop, and we will ask.
I don't want the example one you gave me pre-show. So let's try.
Let's hope you don't pull it. Okay, go. Tell me when to stop.
All right, you can stop.
Oh, am I being true to myself?
Oh, I like that one. For the most part, absolutely. I think there are some places that I'm still trying to figure out. Where I'm at, where I'm being led. I think through the process of the book, through the process of coming out, I'm so much closer. But it's the desires of the heart, right? Am I being true to what is it that I'm supposed to be doing, or am I doing what's easiest and it's, or what I just like? So it's really trying to dig in right now. As far as living my life, yes. As far as work, I'm still trying to figure that piece out. So I don't know. It's close.
I love it. But
does that work?
No, it's a perfect example that we're always working, right? We always have to be working on being our true self, being our authentic self, stepping into that Shero as we described today. I loved that. It's a great example. And so I am so excited, everybody. We're gonna put all the links to get in contact with Dawn, her book as well. And if you're interested in knowing more about the Shero League that we talked about earlier, you can just email me at hello@wsliving.com, hello@wsliving.com, and just write Shero in the subject matter, and we will get you the information. But I want to remind you again, as we close out the show, is that you come into this world, you are this rough little oyster on the outside. You've been, running around the ocean for a little while, but as you start opening up your oyster, you do go find your inner pearl. And I hope you go out today and find your inner pearl of greatness. Have an amazing day.